Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Sword Art Online anime review. This one's going to be for Alicization episode 36, which is called Ray of Light. So this is the episode that ends this first half of War of the Underworld, the anime. And we go on a break until April, where we'll get the second half of War of the Underworld, which is going to be the end of the Alicization arc. So yeah, we're going into like about a 3-4 month break at this point with this episode. So it has that job of sort of having to be a sort of mid-season finale type thing, and I think it does an okay job at that. It has some setup moments. In some ways, it feels like a cliffhanger, a good mid-season finale. In other ways, it does just sort of feel like it ends here because it is the halfway point in terms of the amount of episodes that there are. But I think it has enough good moments that it sort of counteracts maybe some of the pacing type issues here. Because, of course, people will remember this episode because Sinon got her awesome entrance as a goddess like Asuna did. So goddess number 2 arrives here, Sinon as Solus. Here with a really powerful attack here. So Asuna got her giant terrain, making the ravine, taking everyone out. Sinon here gets her giant multi-rapid fire attack where she just wipes out what seems like half of the USA player reinforcements. Big moment, and then I like that afterwards they did sort of linger on the sort of emotion for Asuna, seeing Sinon arrive into the game and just being happy to have someone she knows there to help her out. That they did a pretty good job, I think, in this episode of getting across the idea of Asuna definitely beginning to feel the sort of pressure of what's going on, that they're so against the odds and she's just one player. As powerful as she is just one player, and she almost felt like she had to put the weight of everything on her shoulders. And so Sinon arriving is such a relief to her, and it's just a nice happy moment, the two of them. And it would have been interesting to actually have a reaction shot to the other characters, for from their point of view, kind of seeing two of their goddesses kind of talking to each other. It must be a crazy moment for them, as much as Austin had already explained that we're not actually goddesses, but still, to them, seeing players of that power is still a huge thing. So that was a fantastic moment, and they still tease the fact that Lifa is still to arrive. She's going to have a god account too, so we look forward to that moment. I actually like that they didn't just give us both of them at once. They do the same thing in the light novel. They don't have both characters appear at once, so it's pretty nice that it's the same here. The other big sort of cliffhanger thing, the thing that they actually end the episode on, is Vizago, who really didn't do all that much in under his kind of high-level knight account. He was kind of thereabouts, did a few things, just before he died, but ultimately, Asuna just arrived in. He was the most notable character that she took out, and then we see him wake up here. So he wakes up, has the conversation with Critter about, the Fluctlight acceleration ratio and the reinforcement players and so on, and basically we just get the idea of that Vizago, once he fully gets back up and running, is like, okay, I want to go back in. You're sending in those reinforcements, send me back in as well. And Critter's like, you want to go in under a grunt account? Was that okay? And Vizago's like, no, I've got a special account for this. And the obvious setup, because he knows Asuna from SAO, and then actually mentions Kirito, he must be there as well, means he's an SAO survivor. And they've already teased in the early appearances of Vizago as a character that he very clearly is Laughing Coffin. And given that through the previous arcs of SAO we've covered most of the noted members of Laughing Coffin, except for one, it's pretty obvious, who they are referring to here. So this is a really cool tease. I like that they didn't full on just reveal it here, what his in-game username was and stuff like that, but they're just teasing that he's now going to get serious. When he arrives in again, he's not going to be as sort of wasteful, I suppose, as he was the first time. He's going to be a serious threat next time because he's using the account that he cares about, and he knows that there's among all the floodlights going to be some people that he knows that he wants to settle the score with, and they're going to want to settle the score with him. So great connection there back to the original arc, and that's going to be very, very fun to see. So that's pretty exciting. There is other stuff though. It's not just about the two big reveals at the end. The other, I think, really well done part of the episode was definitely Iskon, the leader of the pugilists, the champion of them. I really liked what they did here. They didn't quite have the time to perhaps explain the idea with him, in that everyone, of course, can see they're going for seal of the right eye stuff. So, did he break the seal of the right eye? He technically did. He ripped his eye out and broke it. But actually, like from the light novel, the way to view this is that he didn't. Otherwise, it would create this situation where there are actually two ALICE AIs, whereas they obviously have to keep it the way where Alice is the only ALICE AI. So Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, was the same, but he died. So they have to get across the idea that the other characters are getting closer and closer to becoming those, full-on, bottom-up AIs, like Alice, but aren't quite getting there. And that's exactly what they're going for here with Iskon. The idea is that on the Dark Territory side of things, their rule, rather than a taboo index, is that they can't defy the most powerful person in their territory, which is their ruler, their emperor right now. So they can't defy an order from Vecta. And before, that was just set in stone. If he wanted them to fight for him, they'd have to do that, and they couldn't do anything else to kind of deviate from that, or they'd be disobeying him. And if they tried to, that's when the seal of the right eye would activate. We've already seen the tease of this with Iskon getting the red the red kind of symbol, the effect coming up, system error, and so on. This time, though, he is so infuriated about the fact that Vecta has basically just used the entire army. The amount of people he sacrificed in his army, it was all for nothing. There's no loyalty of Vecta to his people. He just wanted his own selfish goals and was willing to sacrifice the entire army to get it, as evidenced by the fact that he brings in these outside players and doesn't even bother to tell them who the enemies are or anything like that. So this is what really turns Iskon makes his blood boil, basically, and instead of, through pure force of will just making his eye pop, that's how you actually break the seal of the right eye, he just rips his eye out. It's not the same thing, in that he gets so close, and because he actually has the willpower to sort of get rid of the error in some way, it's as if he's just a step away from reaching that full level. That's the way to view this, in that the characters who have gotten as far as to even see the error on their eye are the ones that are super close to becoming those full-on bottom-up AIs. So Iskon is like super, super close, but didn't quite get there. That's the way to view it, in that explains why he still gets across the idea that he can't disobey the order of the Emperor directly and just team up, and that's why he has to come up with that sort of clever use of logic to kind of get around to the fact that he never said anything about how to deal with these red armored new people, so I'm technically still obeying his order by fighting for the Emperor. I'm just fighting against anyone who opposes us type thing. Even though he knows that they've been brought here by Vecta, he's still kind of able to make these actions as their leader, and use the logic to his advantage, basically. Whereas he wouldn't have been able to do that if he didn't rip his eye out and do all that sort of stuff. That's the point that they're sort of getting at here. Whereas it's different from Alice, who, of course, was able to fully, defy Administrator back before, and there was no, once she broke the seal on her eye, she was basically had pure free will. There was nothing kind of locking her down. So there is that difference here. Still, it's a great character moment for Iskon, who's definitely been the most developed of the kind of enemy commanders, and the fact that he is more logical and he's trying to team up with them. He offers a team up here of these guys are just killing like without even considering who they are. They've just come in and started attacking both sides. We'll team up against them because we don't know who they are, basically. So this ultimately works for both sides, and they agree to it with the idea that Sheta is going to stay behind with Iskan because she clearly has taken a liking to him and he's taken a liking to her. So you have this sort of blossoming relationship as well in all of this, as evidenced by the little bit of banter back and forth between the two of them. He calls her woman and she's just like, I told you my name already, and he does call her Sheta. So that's a fun little thing. It's not being overly developed, but like clearly there's something there for like a character like Sheta, who isn't particularly emotional, to be like volunteering to stay behind, like as the only human kind of sided character. It's a pretty cool thing. But this of course leads up to the whole idea of, in the middle of the fighting, Alice goes off on her own to try and do a big powerful magic spell, but as she separates from the group, Vecta makes his move out of nowhere, swoops in, grabs Alice, uses his powers to just immediately knock her out. So you're like, what are his powers? How did he just take out Alice that quickly? And is bringing her to the World End altar, where of course he can log her light cluster out and use her going forward. And the one character to pursue her is Bercoli. So that's a really cool setup as well. Big fight coming up, Bercoli versus Emperor Vecta. And that's going to be big because we haven't seen Bercoli go all out. We haven't seen his release recollection of his sword. And they need to prove why he is the Integrity Knight Commander. So big stuff from him to come. And there was a little, they used Renly at least a little bit in this episode with that. Before Sinon arrived, he was actually going to go in and sacrifice himself. He was kind of going to have an Eldrie type moment here before, of course, Sinon arrived. Other than that, just again, the Asuna, fighting against the odds here. She's kind of become one of the leaders of the human forces here, and she's getting involved in the battles, and she's using her terrain altering ability as much as she can because it's such a valuable weapon and it's so powerful, but she is at risk of like kind of damaging herself by using it that much. And I did like the little moment of camaraderie between her and Alice, of Alice kind of stepping in and being like, you've done enough, don't completely take yourself out of the battle in all of this. You have us to help you. That was nice. That they're not just having the two sort of snap at each other about the kind of jealousy over Kirito or whatever, that it's serious business now. It's not time for that sort of stuff. So that was nice to see. And then even just that moment of like Asuna in the middle of the fight, she slips on some blood and she gets her arm cut off, and like technically as a god account, like she should be able to just regenerate instantly, but because her sort of morale was kind of down in all of this, she was at risk of actually being defeated here. And so it kind of was meant to highlight the impact of the others arriving, the others helping her, that sort of a thing. But it was cool to see Asuna kind of fighting against the odds and so stuff like that. That's most of the episode. It's our episode before we go into our break. Like I said, good setup, had some nice kind of character moments. Definitely maybe some of those earlier parts of the episode felt a bit rushed, that like they had to cover enough ground so that they made sure to end on like Sinon. They had to include Sinon here, because otherwise the episode might not have had a big enough moment. But I think stuff like Iskan getting this close to breaking the seal of the right eye is a good moment, and you maybe wish they could have expanded on it a little bit more, but in general, very, very good. So they're my thoughts on the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.